Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Evil Hat Games and changes in staffing at Evil Hat Games. Specifically, Evil Hat Games is run by Fred Hicks, and they make the Fate game, which is a system series. Fate is a system of rules that is so robust that there are well over 36 games that are based off of the Fate rule system. Okay, Fate is really a very important game within tabletop role-playing games. Overall, it's a really important rule system, and Evil Hat Games is a really important company within tabletop role-playing games. And Fred Hicks is a really important game designer within tabletop role-playing games. And yesterday, the whole purpose of this, the reason for this video, is yesterday, Fred Hicks put out a article that was called "Getting Too Big for Our Hat," right? Saying we have too many people on our staff based on our sales, right? And so yesterday, Fred Hicks announced that there were going to be 3 changes to the staff of Evil Hat Games. And so they are, so basically 2 of the people are leaving, and then they had to, one other person is not going to be with the company at all. They did not use the term layoff. They did not use the term firing, but Fred Hicks made it clear that they were reducing staff and that 3 people who used to work there with them is not going to be working there with them going forward, right? And those positions are business director, actually the lead for business direction, art direction, and marketing. All right, so they are getting rid of positions for marketing, business direction, and art. Okay, and they are also taking a hatchet to quite a few different products that did not align with the core vision of the company. Okay, they also announced that basically the projects that are not going to be made going forward are mostly non-book products, right? So card games and things that are not traditional tabletop role-playing games where you produce a book, here's the book, you guys can use this to play the game. If it is outside of that standard, incredibly standard tabletop role-playing game model, they are going to be cutting those lines generally across the board. They have a couple of products, 1 or 2 products where it's not that traditional. Here's a book, I sell you the book, now you can play this tabletop role-playing game. If it's outside of that, there's only 1 or 2 products that survived into 2019, and so they're being very lean and very focused on what they're going to actually going to produce in 2019, and also Fred Hicks was incredibly honest, right, and said that they had one of the reasons why they're in this situation is they were choosing to back products, to build products that there was not a high demand for, right? And man, oh man, I can tell you right now, that is definitely the case. The last TRPG that I added to my collection from the Fate rule system, I was like, why did this get made, right? Like, it was, so like it was almost like you saw something in real time, and then Fred Hicks is talking about it immediately and saying, we got to make changes, right? So there's a lot to talk about here, all right? So one of the things is I want to use a mnemonic to hit all my points. So I'm going to think about, this is my mnemonics, just helping me remember my points. Panzerfaust, that means PDF, holding a transparent staff, and on the end of that staff is a hat, okay? All right. So the first part is Panzerfaust is actually, so staffing, I've already talked about, there are these staffing changes happening at Evil Hat Games, okay? That's a big deal, right? And I want to say a big thank you to Fred Hicks for the transparency, and he used that term. He said, I'm being transparent. I'm trying to tell you what is happening here at the company and to be open and honest with you. I definitely understand why he's going down that road, and I as a commentator, as a tabletop role-playing game industry commentator, I owe you a big, huge thanks, Fred Hicks, because it's really helpful to know what's happening, right? Because the reality is, we actually, many TRPG commentators look at what's happening at different companies, and we try to determine and predict what's going to come next, right? So here, this removes a lot of speculation. It removes a lot of conjecture, right? We know what's happening at Evil Hat Games, right? So, all right, so let's get into it. So, what are the lessons that we can take away from this current occurrence, right? Well, one of the biggest lessons that I am taking away from this is that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are 100% right to not make a PDF of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is the current edition. Everybody under the sun, virtually every player I know, says, why don't you make a fully endorsed, brand embraced PDF? Give me a high quality PDF so I can put this thing on my laptop. I will buy it, and then I don't have to have these 3 books that I got to lug around. I don't have to go on and sign up for your multi-month subscription service to D&D Beyond, where I'm buying monsters literally one by one, right? And PDFs are incredibly convenient for players, but they are not. It is super clear right now, in my opinion, that they are not a good business model if you are on top of the hill. If you have an incredibly valuable, sought-after book in the tabletop role-playing game industry hobby, it does not behoove you to create a PDF that can be easily purchased and then emailed to 6 other players, or, it's just not a sound business model, okay? And the reason why I'm taking the time to point this out is Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro take a lot of flack for not having a readily available, brand embraced, fully endorsed PDF of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Excuse me. They really do. Everybody, talks smack about them and says it's a bad idea. Why don't you just sell me a PDF? And the reality is, we have 2 companies, in my opinion, that are data points that are showing that if you have product and you are giving your product out free, right, which both Evil Hat Games does, they give many of their tabletop role-playing games away for free, and Paizo, again, who has an incredibly well-supported SRD, and you're giving your product away for free. I would love for this to be a sound business decision, but we cannot ignore the data. The data is in. Companies that are making a business model out of giving their product away for free, or making it so that their main product is incredibly easily distributed for free, right? Which is really what PDFs are, right? If you're at the top of the chain, now this is not true for smaller companies. And by the way, Evil Hat is not a small company within tabletop role-playing games. They are one of the bigger dogs on the block, right? They are a Saint Bernard. They have literally dozens of games. They held the Dresden Files licensed property. They are not small time. This is not a garage band shop. It isn't, right? And so the reality is, we can't ignore this anymore. Paizo and Evil Hat Games have made their games available as PDF, available as free product, and they are not seeing the success and the robust commercial activity around their products that Wizards of the Coast is, right? And so, I've heard so many people talk smack about Wizards of the Coast for not having a brand embraced, fully endorsed PDF, and now it's becoming super clear that they were right. Wizards of the Coast was right. PDF, top of the hill, best companies in the industry, with the most sought after products in tabletop role playing games. It is not a good idea to make your product available as a PDF. It simply isn't. I feel like Paizo and Evil Hat Games, these are 2 very clear data points. I know it's you can't take 2 data points and make a huge leap from there, but we have to because tabletop role-playing games the industry is so small. ICV2 said that the 2017, the entire market for tabletop role-playing game books was about $35 million. There are single yachts that cost $35 million. It is incredibly small industry. Okay, so when we have two clear data points, we have to look at the data and come to the analysis that the data points to. Okay, so that's my point on PDFs. Transparency. All right, so Fred Hicks is being transparent. Fred Hicks is one of the best guys in the industry as far as customer service, as far as paying attention to the community, interacting with the community, making games that no other company will make, giving shot for games that really don't even look commercially viable, and still saying, hey, I think there's an underserved community for this particular type of game. Give it a shot. Fred Hicks is a good guy, and he is trying to be transparent here. Well, I'm gonna talk about it. I don't think transparency helps companies, right? At the macro level. I have been working since I was 12 years old. Like, my first job was literally shoveling what a dog does after it's eaten its kibble in a dog kennel. I think it was like in Racine, Wisconsin or something. And I've been working ever since, right? So I've been working for 36 years, right? And I'm incredibly blessed. Mostly I've worked for rich people. I've worked for a ton of rich people doing a lot of different things. And one of the things that I've seen is that rich people know the value of secrecy, right? And so one of the things I'm thinking about recently is the Pathfinder 2 game. We know because of information that was put out by Paizo that game was worked on for 2 years before it was not announced. So Pathfinder 2 there was work being done on that game for 2 years before it was announced. It was kept secret, right? And the reality is, I get why Fred Hicks is doing this. He's saying, let me be transparent, right? Because it's really great for the community. It's great for TRPG commentators like me. It answers a lot of questions. But the reality is, like, let's say you're making a stew, right? If you're making a stew and you're in the kitchen and you say to the person that you're making the stew for, hey, I'm making stew, and they walk down and they see a pot of boiling water and they see some onions on the counter unchopped, right? They are not going to have they're not going to go, ooh, stew, right? But if you make the stew and you got the broth going and everything's in the pot and the smells are coming up and you go, oh, I'm making, they'll come to you, man. Like, the aromas are already out and they're like, oh, stew, right? Transparency is not good for creators, right? And that's the other thing is we got to look at some hard facts, right? Basically you can run, there's intended, there's optimum, and there's actual, right? You can run your business in the way you intend. You could try to run, everybody tries to run their business in the optimal way, right? But then there's the way that you actually run your business. And on intended, optimum, and actual, right? I think everybody intends to be transparent, right? The actual is that most people aren't transparent. And the optimum is that people who are not fully transparent, who hold their cards close to the vest and control the flow of information very carefully and stage information out at distinct times, gain incredible business benefits from that staging of information and from less transparency. This is a hard, cold fact. It is not pleasant to look at, right? I really wish that free product was a sound business model. I really wish that transparency helped your company grow. But the reality is, if you look at the data, right, more and more we are seeing that many of these things that we wish was really healthy for companies aren't, right? And so, and we can't just sit here with Fred Hicks, having 3 people walking out the door and pretend anymore that PDFs are really good for our company, or free product is really good for our company, or even that transparency, and just having all your information out there as soon as you have it is helpful. It's not. This is super, super clear, right? All right, so I've talked about the staff. I've talked about transparency. I've talked about PDFs. Let's talk about the hat, right? Okay, so the name of Fred Hicks' company is Evil Hat Games, all right? Just Evil Hat Games is having a tough time right now, right? And so we look at their company and we say, what could have been done better, right? Well, here's one. Don't name your company Evil Hat Games, right? Right? So one of the things that people just need to really pay attention to, because there's a lot of tabletop role-playing game companies that are spinning up, right? And one of the reasons why there's so many tabletop role-playing game companies that are spinning up is, one, low barrier to market, right? It is easy to spin up a tabletop role-playing game company because what they build is easy to build and it is super fun to build, right? So when you create your tabletop role-playing game company, right, don't get edgy. Don't make some clever quip, right? Evil Hat Games is a totally cool name, right? But the thing is, FLGSs are very real, right? Christmas is very real, right? And we already dealt with a satanic panic in the 80s, right? That were, and so you can laugh at moms and dads who want to make sure that the game their 12-year-old is playing is safe. But the reality is, you got to pay you could make your quippy little joke about, your company being called Evil Hat, right? But the reality is, moms and dads buy games for their kids, for 12 to 18-year-olds, and they want some assurance that your company is a real company, right? And is, Wizards of the Coast, they're Monty Cook Games. These are companies that have a good sound name, that when you go to sell a product to a mother or father who's buying a game for a 12 to 18-year-old, they don't have to think, what, evil, what? The first word in your company name is evil, right? Stop being cool. Stop being edgy. Realize moms and dads have money. Kids want games, right? Teenagers want games. Get a good name on your company, right? Get a good name on your company, right? And it's just so that it's just another lesson that we're learning from this news that's coming out of Evil Hat Games. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to say much respect to Fred Hicks. One of the things I'm really proud of him for is recognizing the problem, taking action to make sure that Evil Hat Games is sound and continues to go forward. And, and also, I just want to be super clear. I submitted a game to be published to Evil Hat Games literally this year, right? And they came back to me and said, they rejected my game and said, we're not going to publish your game because there's only a certain window where you can submit your game to be published by us. And that window is not right now. It is coming up sometime in the future. And I don't even know when it is, because I wasn't going to sit around and wait. And I went and found another company to submit my games to. So, I have incredible respect for what Fred Hicks is accomplishing. And I really appreciate that he's moving to do the right thing for his company. And also, I am in his corner, right? And today I'm going to go look at what is on Evil Hat Games Drive-Thru RPG and pick something up today to get some money flowing into that company, because I think they're incredibly helpful to the industry as a whole. I really appreciate Fred Hicks' transparency. I think going forward, he might really want to think twice about how transparent he is. And I don't think it was a mistake to make that announcement. Sometimes you need to, but overall, and so I really appreciate how open he is about his business. At the same time, I question the complete validity of it. But I really have a lot of respect for Fred Hicks. I owe Fred Hicks. There was a period where I ran a lot of Fate because it was free and I could give it to anyone, and it was fast and it was flexible and it was fun. And those games are still free, fast, flexible, and fun. I'm rooting for you, Fred, and I'm rooting for Evil Hat Games. Take care. Oh, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you.